If you're in the market for a new cutting machine and you're wondering whether to get a Cricut 4, a Cameo 5 or a Siser Juliet, this is the video for you. I did a comparison video a while back, but the Cricut 4 hadn't even been announced at that point and I didn't have a Cameo 5. So this is an update with all three machines side by side. As a disclaimer, I have no affiliation with any of these companies. So this is a completely unbiased opinion of each of the machines, what they have to offer and their software as well. These things may change again though, as each new company brings out new machines and upgrades. And of course, these aren't the only three machines that these companies sell. So I will be mentioning some of the other models throughout the video as well. Let's start with the size of the machines and also the sizes they can cut. If you have a specific amount of space available for your machine or you want to make large designs, this is important. The Cricut Explore is the smallest at 53.8 centimeters wide. The Cameo 5 is 57 centimeters wide. The Juliet is about 60 centimeters wide. Of course, if you are really limited on space, you may want to look at the smaller machines like the Cricut Joy, the Joy Extra, or the Silhouette Portrait, which are much smaller machines but do limit what you can make with them. If you have unlimited space, then there is also the option of choosing from the Cricut Venture, the Silhouette Cameo Pro, or the Siser Romeo, all of which are bigger machines. I quite like my 12-inch cutters though, because I tend to buy 12-inch rolls of vinyl to use in them. The Cricut Explore series, Cricut Maker, Cameo 4 and 5, and the Siser Juliet are all fairly similar in terms of the width they can cut, between 11.5 and 12 inches wide maximum. Although these widths do vary slightly depending on whether you're using a cutting mat or not. With the Cricut Explore 4 and the Cricut Maker 4, you do need to use a cutting mat unless you're using smart vinyl. So you are limited to 23.5 inches in length with a cutting mat, or you can cut up to 12 feet long with smart vinyl. But I personally wouldn't recommend it. It's not the best to work with and it is more expensive than other brands. This is why I prefer to make my larger decals on my Cameo 5 or my Siser Juliet. Both of those will cut any brand of vinyl HTV without a mat up to about 10 feet. The Cameo 5 has a roll feeder in front that holds your roll and you can feed it through the machine like this. And with the Siser Juliet, you feed it in from the back so you can get a roll holder like this that sits behind it. And you can also use a mat with both of them as well if you need to, and also for other materials like card and stickers. Another thing to mention is that you can also now get an electrostatic mat to go with your Cameo 5 too. This holds onto your material with no adhesive needed, so it's better for delicate materials like paper and card. It does mean you need an extra 12 inches in front of your machine though. If you're not aware already, each manufacturer has their own software for designing and cutting on their machines. They are called Cricut Design Space, Silhouette Studio and Leonardo Design Studio. First off, Cricut Design Space has had a lot of criticism, but to be fair to them, since I started using it in 2017, it has majorly improved. I think it is probably the easiest to learn if you're a complete beginner to cutting machines, and it has all of the basic features you need to get started. Plus you can upload ready-made designs too, and there is an app for both Apple and Android if you would prefer to create on your tablet or phone. Then there is Silhouette Studio, which is definitely the most advanced of the three and has a lot of different features. Although there is actually now the option to switch it to starter mode, so you only have the basic features while you're still learning. I have the business edition, which does let you do a bit more than the free edition, and you do need at least the designer edition to be able to upload SVG files. Leonardo Design Studio is probably the most basic of the three, I would say, although it still does have plenty of features too. I think if you're unsure, the best thing to do is to test them out. All three are available to download for free before you buy your machine, so you can have a little bit of a play around with them before you actually purchase anything. For me personally, I don't really mind because I only ever do very basic wording designs within cutting software. For everything else, I either create them using AI on Playground, I get pre-made SVG designs from Creative Fabrica, or I use Adobe Illustrator and then just upload to whichever design software of the machine I want to cut with. I've always done it that way, and it means I can save my designs on my computer instead, and then I can use them on other things if needed. If, like me, you mostly want to use your machine to cut things like vinyl, iron-on vinyl, card and stickers, all of the machines I've mentioned will do that. Apart from the Cricut Joy, which doesn't have print then cut capabilities, so that one can't make stickers. but the rest of them can. However, if you want to be able to cut a wider range of materials, here is a quick breakdown. So the Cricut Explore series can cut about 100 different materials. You can also get 6 different tools to use with it, including a scoring and foiling tool and a one for bonded fabric. The Cricut Maker series, however, can cut over 300 materials up to a 2.4mm thickness, and it has up to a 4 kilogram cutting force, so it can cut everything from balsa wood to burlap, and is much better if you want to cut all types of fabric. You would need to purchase extra blades to cut some of these though, and you can get ones for debossing and engraving, among others too. As for the Cameo 5, that has a 3mm clearance for thicker materials. However, the standard blade that comes with it will only cut up to 1mm thickness. This can also cut around 100 materials, and you have the option to purchase an additional rotary blade, craft blade or punch tool. Despite there being slightly fewer add-ons than the Cricut machine, they can cut with a bit more force at up to 5 kilograms using the second tool slot. Siser isn't very clear on the exact amount of materials that the Juliet can cut, but it does say that you can cut cardstock, stickers, craft foam and much more, as well as HTV and vinyl. It also only has a max cutting force of 800 grams, so that does make it quite a bit more limited if you want a machine that does it all. However, since my last video, they have brought out crease and easy etch tools and a deep cut blade, which cuts up to 2mm thick materials. What I really like about Siser is that as of right now, rather than upgrading their machines so that you have to keep buying new ones every couple of years, they have built such a good quality machine to begin with that all they have to upgrade is the tools you can use with it. But I don't know, that might change as technology does, we'll see. So the main upgrade and selling point of the Cricut 4 is the speed. It has got a lot faster. So let's test that out against the Cameo 5 and the Siser Juliet and see how it does. I'm just creating a quick design in Adobe Illustrator and saving it as an SVG, and I'll use the same design for all 3 to make it fair. So first, testing the Cricut. It's really quick to open up Design Space, click the upload button here, drag your file in, and SVG files get added instantly. You do just need to combine and then unite or weld to make all of the letters stay together. Then click Make, choose the mat you're using, continue, and then select your cut settings. I'm selecting the value vinyl setting and I'm using Retrama permanent vinyl, just adding that to my cutting mat and inserting into the machine. The Cricut 3s and 4s do pull the mat through like this first to check the alignment, so you do need to have a bit of clearance behind your machine. That is another thing to bear in mind. Then from hitting go, it does take a few seconds to register and then cuts. This is what it sounds like. A bit noisy, but not too bad. I did hit the stop button a bit late there, so I'll just say over 40 seconds to be fair. Pretty good, and it has cut perfectly well. It weeds really easily, but that can depend on your vinyl and the cut setting you use too. Now for the Cameo 5, you can just go to File, then Open or Merge to add your design. For SVGs, you need to select All and Weld. Then you may need to adjust the page setup so the media customization is larger than your design. Then send and connect your machine, select your material and click through until it tells you to add to your machine. So insert the mat by lining it up with the left hand side and pressing the up arrow button, then press send. And the Cameo 5 is definitely quieter than the Cameo 4. That was a monster, but it's not silent either. I would say it is about on par with the Cricut now, but then it took over a minute, so a bit slower. Once done, it didn't actually cut quite as perfectly as the Cricut either, which was disappointing, but it did weed well. I did make stickers on it a few days ago though, and I've got to say it is usually a lot more accurate when it comes to print then cut designs. So finally, onto the Siser Juliet. Again, it's really simple to just open up a new page, open your design up. You do have to go to Paths and Weld to make sure the wording stays joined up. Then just send design, make sure your settings are correct, and then line up your vinyl on your mat. You do need to add your vinyl at the bottom, which is a bit confusing at first if you're used to the other machines, but I quickly got used to it. Insert the mat into the machine, make sure the blade is lined up with the bottom left corner, then you can send to cutter and it will cut. and it is definitely the quietest of the three machines. So this took almost 45 seconds, just ever so slightly slower than the Cricut, but not by much. So of course this is just comparing cutting vinyl. If I did print then cut or cut other materials, there may be a difference, but as one of the most common things you will probably be cutting, this is definitely an interesting comparison. Now one of the most important bits, the cost. There are often good deals and sales from various different sellers, so do shop around. But as of right now, these are the costs for the machines that I've mentioned. The Cricut Explore 4 is currently $249 in the US and $269.99 in the UK. The Maker 4 is $399 or £399.99. Honestly, a Cricut 2 or 3 is just as good. There aren't many differences. So if you can find a really good deal, don't rule those out. And if you're buying from the Cricut website, try and sign up for a free trial of Cricut Access first, and then you will get 10% off your purchase. The Cameo 5 is currently on sale down to $269.99 in the US, or you can get it for $299.99 in the UK. You can also currently get a Juliet on sale in the US from Swing Design, $379, and it's currently $520 in the UK on the Hobbycraft website, but I have seen that price drop as well, so do shop around. Again though, if your budget is limited, take a look at the smaller machines, or if you have a bigger budget, then maybe one of the larger machines or even a more professional grade may be better. Take a look at my video, the best vinyl cutting machines, if you want to find out about the other brands that are out there. So these are all the pros and cons in my opinion, and just from what I've found from using the three machines. Cricut is the most well-known brand of the three, so if you have an issue, it's usually easy to troubleshoot it. And for that reason, I found it easy to learn as well because there are so many tutorials out there. I also have a members hub on my site called Cutting Machine Confident that has everything you need to get up and running with your Cricut in one place. It's got short tutorials, free cut files, cheat sheets, links to the best suppliers and more. So that's there if you get a Cricut and need some extra help. I also like the new speed update, and I generally do think Cricuts are good machines. My old one lasted me 8 years before I decided to finally upgrade. However, I don't like using Cricut materials, so it means I always have to use a cutting mat, which is a bit of an issue when I want to make larger designs. And sometimes the alignment of print then cut can be a bit hit and miss, although that has improved with recent updates. I love that the Cameo has a roll feeder and you can cut any brand of vinyl rolls. That is really helpful for me with my vinyl business. I also find the print then cut really accurate. I rarely have any issues with it. Sometimes I find the software a bit slow and I did find it harder to learn. When I had issues with my Cameo 4 in the past, I found it quite hard to troubleshoot and I didn't get much help from the Silhouette customer service team. Again, I love the ability to feed vinyl through it and it is really fast, and I like how it is the quietest out of the three machines. And I just think it's a really good quality machine as well. The software is fairly basic, you can't do a lot with it, and it does have slightly less capabilities than the other machines if you want to cut a lot of different materials or do different things. So my personal opinion is that Cricut is best if you're new to cutting machines, still learning, and you want to experiment with lots of different crafts. I think the Cameo 5 is best for print then cut, so it would be perfect if you wanted to start a sticker business, for example. And I think the Siser Juliet is best for vinyl and iron-on vinyl businesses. But that is just my opinion. Do weigh up your budget, how much space you have available, what you would like to cut, and do try out the three different softwares as well and see which one you find easiest to use. I hope you found that helpful. Let me know in the comments if you've got any questions, or let me know if this has made you decide on one of the machines if you were unsure before. And please like and subscribe if you'd like to support the channel so I can continue to make more videos like this. Thanks for watching.